Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today or joining us today. You are going to be in for a real treat because today I am joined by the lovely Bree Stedman. Welcome, Bree.
Hello, hello.
Now, Bree is an accomplished businesswoman. She's actually been in business for herself since 2005. Now, her specialty is empowering women. And this first started for her in a leadership role where she worked in a multi-level marketing company where she built for herself a six-figure business. Now, in 2012, she came across Creatrix, and that's where everything changed. And that's what I can't wait to hear about, Bree. She actually left that six-figure business and started her own Creatrix business. Now, Bree, for a lot of women that are watching, I can imagine that for them, striving to have that six-figure business is something that they're, that's a target for them. Yet you had this and you transitioned away from that to something different. So can you share with us how, where you were at the time, what was going on for you? Actually, even right back to where you were doing the multi-level marketing business, and then what happened for that to change and for you to go in a different direction?
Yeah, I started my business originally because, like a lot of women, I was really looking for something that provided me with a vehicle to create my own definition of success, something that allowed me freedom and flexibility. And so just by accident, I found myself with this six-figure business simply because I was following the lead of the people that, were telling me what to do. And, if I hit this level, then I would hit this recognition point, and that would give me this title, which mean I would be this. So everything that I did in that business was to hit a goal point set by somebody else. And what I recognized is once I actually hit, that level of business where the majority of the companies strived to hit. And so, I was a top 15 leader. And I remember standing on stage the first time that I hit that status, and my husband was in the audience. My mum flew down to Melbourne as well. So I had the whole family there, to support this massive accomplishment, because to hit that level of success in that particular company was not something that everybody could do. And I remember standing there on stage, looking down at my mum and my husband and trembling, because as I looked around, on stage with me, and I was surrounded by all of these women that I had looked up to for so many years, and saw the audience look at me as one of those elite people, it just felt so empty and worthless. And not that the accomplishment was worthless. The accomplishment meant a lot, but I didn't feel like I had what it took to actually, one, maintain it and really own that accomplishment in the first place. So while I was standing there on stage looking at all these other women that had done it year in and year out, I couldn't help but compare myself and all of my inadequacies to my perception of their strengths. And so when I got off on stage, I burst into tears, and my husband was like, "You must be so happy." And I was like, "No, like this just feels wrong." And no one could understand why it felt wrong, because, outside I'd ticked all the boxes. I'd done everything that, success perceived to be, and it just didn't fill me with the level of satisfaction and fulfillment that I expected it to. So that was really the catalyst that gave me the strength to change direction when the right opportunity came, because I couldn't maintain a business that was successful outside when I didn't feel it inside.
Right. So do you think that you were the only one that was having those sorts of emotions that as you got to the top? Because surely, I know that there are a lot of women that is exactly what they strive for. Is this a normal thing? Would you say that once you get up there, where's that satisfaction?
In my experience, many, many women experience that, because what we get caught in the trap of doing is ticking boxes, hitting these goal points, but they're goal points that are not necessarily aligned with what's important to us, and they're not necessarily bringing us joy. Very few women are truly motivated by the external. Very few women, and what I mean by that is very few of us are motivated by money. Few of us are motivated by that external reward of you do this and you get that. So we can maintain it for a little while. We can use those short-term, carrot stick, so to speak, to motivate us to do the action. But once we get there, that's why you hit that level, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, I've hit that, now I've got to go for the next thing. So you're constantly striving for the next thing in the hopes that that next thing is going to give you what you're yearning into internally. And that is, the deservingness and the worthiness and the fulfillment of what the success looks like externally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
how was it like for you to actually get to that point and that realization? I mean, how was that journey up to that point for you? In not just with work and trying to strive and accomplish those achievements, but how were you in other areas of your life? Like, was it that hustle and bustle? Like, what was it like for you to get to, like, personally,
Yeah.
to go through those stages and get there?
Disconnected. Totally
Wow.
disconnected. I actually lost sight of who I really was because I spent so much of my time building this professional persona and displaying all of the traits of success, the positive attitude and the can do and always confident, so
Yeah.
there was such a facade that I got sucked into. And then in my personal life, because I spent so much of my time trying to make myself feel worthy with the professional world, when I came into my personal world, I didn't know how to be in that space. There was, and these were all my own perceptions, but there was a perception that, people expected me to be positive and happy. And if I happened to have a bad day, it would be like, well, Bree, you've got no reason to be down. Why are you struggling? You've got the happy husband, you've got the perfect family, you've got this big successful career, you've got no reason to feel anything other than gratitude. So when I would display a moment of humanness, it would quite often be thrown back in my face. So I got to a point where I just stopped showing it altogether. Anytime anyone saw me outside of the house, I was playing the role of whoever I thought they wanted me to be. And then inside the house, I just lost total touch of reality because, there's only so much, there's only so long that you can control every single reaction and every single response. And you get to the point, it's like that breaking point. And unfortunately for my family, my young kids and my husband, the breaking point came from, aggressive over the top reactions at home because I didn't have to be on at home.
Right.
There became this real disconnect between who I was at home behind closed doors and who everybody else perceived me to be. And I'm stuck in the middle going, but I don't even know what way, who am I really? Because I know that I don't want to be this person and I don't feel that I am this person. So who am I really?
Yeah, and that's what I really wanted to kind of hone in on and say and ask you, like, what was that pivotal moment where it, because you went from having, the life, the money, the income, and what looked like the perfect life, and then you gave that up to do something different. There must have been a defining moment or something that happened that had you decide, that's it. It doesn't work. This isn't working. Something's got to change. What was that?
So there were two moments that happened simultaneously, one in my professional world and one in my personal world. So professionally, I was teaching, the girls that I led, and felt like such a fake and a fraud. Everything that was coming out of my mouth felt like absolute bullshit because I didn't feel the success. I was expecting all of these girls who were looking up to me as a role model. I was expecting them to just be confident and fake it till you make it and the confidence will grow. And that's what I had done for years. And I still didn't feel confident. I still didn't feel worthy. I still didn't feel deserving of the role that I had. And so I started to feel incredibly hypocritical in that space because it felt so inauthentic to say to someone, just pretend that you're confident and soon enough that confidence will grow. Just push aside all those doubts and insecurities because they're not real. Pretend that you are that confident person and that will become your reality. I knew that was bullshit because I'd tried it and I was living it and it wasn't working for me. So professionally, I couldn't keep saying the same shit. Personally, my kids at the time were only 2 and 4, so they were quite young. And because my reactions at home were so explosive, they had started to cringe away from me. I would walk in, and the defining moment was I walked into the lounge room where my kids were playing. And I came in behind my son and he didn't realize that I was there. And when he became aware that I was there, he flinched away from me. And that reaction that he had to my presence was like a slap in the face. And it was just that moment where I knew I didn't want that for my kids. I didn't want to be that kind of mum. I wanted a connection with my kids. They were the reason why I was in business in the first place. And I'd prioritized so much of being on for everybody else that I'd become the epitome of what I didn't want to be at home. So when both of those events happened, and they both happened within, a matter of weeks, it was something needs to change. If I'm the common denominator in my professional world and in my personal world, then it's a problem that lies within me. So what do I need to do to fix this so that I can be more of what I want to be externally in all of my worlds and not have to play such a disconnected space?
Wow, that's amazing. That's why I knew we were going to get so much out of this interview with you, because I love the way that you express yourself, and you do keep it real. And that's quite a reality for many women out there, putting on that facade, right? When they know that the inner world isn't quite the same. So yeah, having that reality check for you, like seeing those two worlds. But then what was going on for you when you knew you had to take action? What were the emotions like? What were you feeling? I mean, that wouldn't have been something easy for you to give up and shift across to something totally different.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably knew you could take some skills across, but you had to start again, right? And so what was your process in regards to transitioning across to something that was obviously more meaningful to you, more fulfilling?
So once I'd sorted out me and I did the internal work on me so that I felt that I could be, who I really was in all worlds, didn't have to play that whole put on a different mask every time I step out the front door. Once I did that internal work on me, I couldn't go back to selling bullshit. I couldn't go back to preaching what I didn't believe, because from that moment when I became centered and when I sorted out my own doubts and insecurities, I started to just be all of who I was in every area of my life. So there was no, I'm going to work now, this is who I'm going to be, and now I'm with family and this is who I'm going to be. It was just, this is Bree, and she's bringing the best of herself across all boards. So I started to do business very different. And as a result of me doing business very different, I couldn't fall back into the structured guidelines that was expected of me. So the transition came mostly because of that internal desire that I'd experienced. Because I knew my life had changed so significantly from Creatrix, it didn't feel right to not gift that to other women. I couldn't continue to place on band-aids to the girls that I was trying to inspire and lead when I knew that something like Creatrix existed in the planet. And at that point in time, 2013 was when I became a facilitator of Creatrix. It was brand new. It was doors open and I was there. And so when I decided to transition from that secure, regular income that MLM had provided me into this very new field that provided me with so much more heart rewards, I was, fighting with the uncertainty, and I was fighting with there was a big fear around, could I actually make it happen on my own? Because the existing business that I've been in, and if anyone's familiar with MLM or even in most corporate positions, there's a very detailed pathway that you follow.
Yeah.
You do this and you're going to get to this, and then do that and you'll get to this. And so I'd followed that structure, and that's what had provided me with the success. I was moving into this new field that was very uncharted waters at that point in time. I was blessed that I had Maz as my role model, and so I was emulating everything that she was doing. But at the same time, I had to do it my way. It had to feel good to me while I was doing it. So we were very much, testing new methods as we were going. And the belief, the struggle that I had was believing that I could do it. I saw Maz do it, and I knew that Maz could do it. And I could see that it could be done, but could I do that? That was the real struggle that I had. Could I build myself up again and create an income to replace the income that we'd started to just expect every month on my own merit? And so that was really the struggle. Letting go of security was the biggest obstacle that I had to overcome. And ultimately it just got to a point where security didn't provide me with enough satisfaction. I lived that. That was why I got stuck in the first place, because I was trying to force security to feel good, and it didn't. So in the end, I had to follow what felt good. And that was this new space of making a real significant difference to women, even though it didn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that for most women, like you're saying, it's that uncertainty, can I do it, and all those sorts of questions.
Yeah.
So when you went across to transition, was it just stopping where you were and going straight across, or was it a transition across? How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, definitely a transition. And look, I think I'm a very practical person by nature. And, you know, my ultimate advice is if it feels good to just stop and start, then do that.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I still had family to support. And, you know, my husband was relying on my income just as I was relying on his income. We're a team, right? So what I started to do was, while I was running my existing business and it was doing quite well, I started my training. And through the training, I started to do more of the activities that I was naturally drawn to. So that was my Creatrix business. I started to connect with women in a real, authentic, unscripted manner, just sharing my heart, connecting with their heart. And as I started to do more of that, it became this addiction because I could see the difference that I was making in other women. So I was naturally drawn to doing more of that activity. So if you look at it as scales, you know, it started out where my MLM business was the priority, and, you know, the learning of Creatrix was there. And then gradually it started to balance out. And almost not overnight, but effortlessly, it just became this space where Creatrix was just this effortless extension of me. And sharing my heart and connecting with clients on that plane just became so easy. This then became more of a challenge because I had to put myself back into a space that didn't feel good anymore. And so once that got to a point where I just knew that I wasn't serving anyone by playing at this playground, I then made that call and walked away from that security and sort of moved into the new space. So there was a transition that allowed me to grow in my confidence.
Yeah.
To fully then explore that. Now, the income didn't match the efforts initially.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like anything new, you've got to do and you've got to be out there. And the more you're out there, then the income starts to flow. So there was a massive drop in income for quite a while. But then I hit my groove and I found my space because it just, you know, I've just always run this part of my business as an extension of self.
Yeah.
And you do that long enough and there's no stress, there's no hustle, there's no force. You know, that is the energy that they talk about when we talk about law of attraction and, you know, put out to the world what you want. It's being in the world who you want to be, and that is what's going to attract everything that you're desiring.
Exactly, because I think that's where maybe a lot of women get lost in, that is their focus can sometimes be more about the money.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to make ends meet? How is this going to work? How quickly can I make it happen? So based on what you're saying, is that your focus was more on the energy, like it was in the being of what you truly enjoy, and then that, you know, that energy started to attract and lift the business.
Yeah.
And that's where the income started to come.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Look, most women can experience that. You've all had experience of doing that. When you try and force yourself to do, and I see this on social media all of the time, you know, all of the female entrepreneurs that are out there trying to build this business, you know, they talk about their activity from a hustle perspective. You know, you've got to hustle, you've always got to be on, and you've got to do this and that. And I bet that if you actually looked at yourself, if you're one of those women who hustle all of the time, I am 98% certain that you feel exhausted by that effort. Like, it is going to work because you're having to do all of the time. But if you reflect on those times in your life where you are just being, you know, whether it's in business or whether it's in your personal life, when you are expressing yourself because it feels good and because you truly believe in what it is that you are able to do for other people, that expression of self is the most attractive energy, full stop. And it's the most natural energy for women. You know, Maz teaches us the female manner of success is to be. So in order to be the kind of businesswoman that you want to be, you need to recognize that there are doubts, fears, and insecurities that are keeping you stuck at the level where you're at right now. You go and sort those out and you will feel more of who you want to be. That being is then going to naturally inspire you to do the actions that are required to then achieve the results. We're not designed the way that a man is designed. You know, men find a sense of pride when they can tick off the box and they know that they've achieved the action. That fills them up with a sense of satisfaction. You know, I did that. You know, man. And through that, they then build that confidence and they get the results. And when men get the results, because they hit that level of goal, that gives them that real, yeah, I did it. You know, that makes them feel good. Very few women get to that point. It's like me. I got to that point. I did it, and it still didn't fulfill me. So we have to approach it from a different heart space.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what you hit the nail on the head with that. And I could see from the story that you shared with me, that was your journey, right? You got there, and then what? You know, and I think that, like you were saying, I think for women, we need to really understand that we do run a completely different program to men, in that, you know, it's more heart, we are more heart space. We are, when we're in our heart space, we're more in flow and we'll attract more to us. So yeah, I can see that quite clearly in regards to what you were doing and what a lot of women out there do, because we are in a, you know, quite a male dominated arena, with you know, over 90% of the personal development modalities out there being designed by men. So it does make sense that something like this would work more for women. So for you, like, and you took that, like, you were basically running off a very male dominant process that got you there, and then you realized that you weren't satisfied. And then you switched across to Creatrix, which is more female focused, well, specifically female focused. And you still are successful. In fact, you have helped over 330 plus women personally transform their lives. How does that feel for you now?
I love it. It's so easy. You know, my business is easy, and I've got friends and you know, I live a busy life, and a lot of people go, God, Bree, you're always busy, and you know, you're flying here to do these, and you're doing this, and you're always working with someone somewhere. You know, aren't you exhausted? And no, and you know, like you and I were saying, this week I've worked every day for the last 6 days. I've got another client again tomorrow, so I've got 7 days of flat out Creatrix all week, and I love it. Because every single time I've been able to connect with another woman, I know that I'm enabling her to live a more fulfilled life without all of those filters that are causing her shit. So the life doesn't have a start and end point for me anymore. There's no, I'm going to walk out the front door and be this person, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to be this person. It's the same person all of the time in every single playing field of my life. And as a result, there's just flow. You know, my family are very, they're intertwined in the work that I do. They love what I do. You know, my kids, bless their cotton socks, because of COVID-19, they've been around, you know, while I've been working full time. And they say to me before I go to work with a client, you know, Mama, do you have a client today? And I'm like, yeah, darling. And they'll say, so is it just a phone call or is it Creatrix? Because if it's Creatrix, we'll be incredibly quiet. Like, and they do. They respect the work that I'm doing because they know through their own life experience how it's helped me, because it's helped them by extension. And they hear, you know, some of the phone calls that I have with women when they're in absolute pits of despair, and then these ladies afterwards are like, you know, my mama did that. My mama. And so it's just, there's so much pride in what I do now, in that sense of pride in what I'm able to, portray as a role model. That fulfills me. The ability to be able to help another woman fulfills me. The income that I'm able to, you know, contribute to our family fulfills me. The ability to give back to my local community and donate, you know, things that I've never been in a position where I've been able to financially donate and support other people, and now I can. So every part of my business now provides me with a space of pride and fulfillment. So there is no work anymore. It's just an extension of self. It's easy. Love it, the way that women are supposed to be.
Exactly. Just one, you know, not all the different hats. And I think that so many women out there can relate to that, the different hats, the different faces they're putting on from one moment to the next.
Yeah.
And then to see someone like you just pull that all together and just be that one conglomerate, that one person in all areas. Can you imagine? Like, that is so much more relaxing. Like, that's where you can be in flow.
It's just simple.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, Bree, if you could share, say your top 3 tips for any other, women out there that are watching now that are in that similar position that you are in,
Yep.
where they do have this life and it's all looking great on the outside, but it's not feeling so good on the inside. What would you share with her in regards to taking those steps to move forward and doing the transition that can give them that fulfillment that they truly desire?
Yeah. Okay, so the first advice is to rip off the band-aids. We, particularly women in business, you're very, very good at coping. We have to be good at coping. So when we do feel something negative, we've got a strategy that we can go to push that down so that you can deal with it later. That's not helping. That's adding to that lack of satisfaction and that lack of fulfillment and the frustration, stress, and overwhelm that you're feeling, because you've got so many band-aids on now that you can't even acknowledge what's really going on. So rip off the band-aids and do the work on you first and foremost. The stronger you feel internally, the stronger your external environment is going to become. So that's number one. We need to be brave to recognize that there is a different way of doing that. You don't have to keep trying to force. If a strategy, you don't have to try and force a strategy to work. If it's not working, it's not working. Find a strategy that does. Don't keep trying to just plaster it on and hope that you'll get a different response, because
that's if you're forcing, right? So that's a good indicator.
Yeah, it's not working. If it's not working, it's not working.
It's not meant to force. Yeah,
that's right. So that's the first thing. Rip off the band-aid. Secondly, get really clear with what is important to you. I have a firm belief that there's a lot of women that are just going through the motions of life, hoping that if they hit enough external goal points, that they're going to find happiness and fulfillment, and that it's an illusion. What's actually going to provide you with happiness and fulfillment is recognizing what's important to you and then allowing those things to guide your decisions. Yeah. And when I talk about that, it's not, typical values of love, trust, integrity. They are all parts of who you are. They make up the tapestry of your character. The things that are important to you are the people in your world and the experiences that you want to have in this life. Those people, those things, if there's something that excites you that you want to do more of, that's important to you, then start making your decisions to align with those things. That's where you're going to get a high level of satisfaction, because you're allowing those things to actually guide you. And that was ultimately what had me walk away from the MLM business and put all of my trust and faith in something new. Yeah. I identified what was important to me. Being genuine was important to me. Being in a space that really celebrated authenticity was important to me. Being able to be a genuine role model for everybody in my life, not just the women that I was trying to inspire, but my children, my husband, my family, and my friends, was something important to me. And knowing that when I went to work, I was making a significant difference to others. These were the things that, when I looked at what that opportunity allowed for me compared to the opportunity that I had with a secure job, that I was going to get all of that in that space. I was compromising all of those things in my existing business. Yeah. So knowing what was important to me really allowed me to align my decision to follow my gut, because I knew that it was going to tick all of the boxes of what lit my heart up and lit my soul up. So that's the second thing. Get clear on what's important to you. And then if it's something that's not, if your family is something that's important to you and you're not spending quality connected time with them, then look at the areas of life that are taking you away from that. Because again, your gut is probably going to be telling you these things are not serving me. There's a reason why there's a conflict there. So look at what's important to you. And then the third one is to allow your feelings to guide you. If it feels hard, then something's not working, and your gut, your heart is trying to tell you that through those negative emotions. Negative emotions have a purpose. They're there to tell us that something needs to change. So if you're in an environment that is constantly making you feel stressed or overwhelmed or frustrated, not good enough, if you're comparing yourself to others, if you've got any of that shit going on, those negative emotions are trying to get your attention to redirect you elsewhere. So, you know, pay attention to those and then follow the stuff that makes you feel good. Do the things that make you feel empowered, that make you feel strong, that naturally bring out that level of confidence in you. And that is going to guide you along a much easier path of enjoying life.
Wow. Yeah, exactly right. And that's why I was so excited to have the opportunity to talk with you today, because I knew that you were going to be able to let all these other women that are watching us today and resonate with them and give them that inspiration. Sometimes we just need to hear it. Like sometimes we know what we need to do, but then when we're able to actually see someone resonate with someone who can talk about it from personal experience and then actually take the action to do it, sometimes that's all we need. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to sharing your journey with us. And I hope that everyone that's watching takes this all on board and that you actually get a greater understanding of what we are doing here at the Institute of Women International. We really are about supporting other women to become the best version of themselves, to set them free, to be doing what they truly love. And obviously, with Bree joining us today and sharing her journey, thank you, Bree. I hope that you've been able to take something away from this and set your heart free to start being on the path where you know you belong. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.